My name is Linda Ndongo. I am the general manager here at Bolt. I take care of the ride-hailing business, and today we've basically just been having a discussion around, some of the interesting topics in the ride-hailing industry, including pricing, including safety, and what's coming next for the industry. I mean, it's interesting that you would frame it that way, because I would draw your attention to the fact that last year there was a price increment from our end when fuel prices went up. And that's just to say that it doesn't need to escalate to a protest for anything to be done on pricing. And I'll also draw your attention to the fact that we've been having national protests. And in the wake of national protests, we've also seen a wave of other protests. So it is possible that some of these protests that we've seen in other sectors and industries such as ourselves have kind of been, spurred on by the national protests that are happening. But that said, we take pricing very seriously because our marketplace doesn't work without our driver partners. Our driver partners work with us even when they want. It's voluntary. And so we always have to be at the fore trying to provide for them a platform that actually works for them so that they want to come and work with us. And in terms of the commission, we are regulated. There is regulations in place that stipulate that app companies only take 18% and drivers take 82%, which means, for example, if the trip fare is 100 shillings, just for simplicity, the drivers take home out of that is 82 shillings, and the app companies take home out of that is 18 shillings. And we do stay within the confines of the law when it comes to commission and what we're supposed to charge and how we're supposed to charge. When we're looking at pricing, we don't look at risks because this is not credit, right? We're offering a service. So what we look at is what is optimal in terms of the circumstance that is surrounding the trip. And so several things come into play. One is what we call the base fare, which is, the very basic that a trip can be. And then several things come into play. How far are you going? And then the third main thing that comes into play is also how long will it take you? And so perhaps one of the things that could have happened for the trip that you are describing, maybe there was more traffic later on, potentially, which then means that it would take longer for you to get from point A to point B. And it's important that the driver gets compensated for that extra time on the road, because at the end of the day, back to what we were saying, it has to make sense for the driver, for them to come and offer this service on the platform. And that's why you see, dependent on various factors that are around the environment, the pricing could go up or go down, depending on time of day, traffic, where you're going, how far you're going, all these things. These are the things that we look at in the back end that feed into the pricing mechanism. Some of the sentiment that has been in the market as to why don't you just, for example, increase fares to 500 shillings, 2,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings. I'm exaggerating now, of course, but the reality is there's a certain place that ride-hailing partners could take the pricing that locks out a big majority of the passengers who want to use this service. And now if we lock out our passengers, then the driver loses. If the driver loses, the app company loses, because ours is a synergistic relationship. It only works if the driver is on the platform and offers a trip. That's the only way we have a business. And so we have to look at these two sides of the marketplace. We have to look at the drivers, we have to look at the passengers, and we have to, do our best in the back end to make it balanced for the two parties in terms of pricing. I mean, I think the entire country was impacted by protests. It's not, in my personal view, the best thing for private businesses to face protests, because I do understand perhaps maybe from a national government standpoint that sometimes we as citizens, we have to, make our voices heard. But when you come to a private business, then I think a more effective way is to actually have dialogue, is to actually sit and discuss and collaborate. Because at the end of the day, especially in the ride-hailing industry, if it doesn't work for the drivers, it doesn't work for the app companies. If it doesn't work for all the players in the ecosystem in the mid to long term will collapse. And it's not beneficial for anyone. Then we're all out of business and nobody's making money and we are not progressing forward. And so the encouragement for us as Bolt is continuous dialogue. We, for example, now have a driver engagement center where we actually encourage and invite our drivers to come and we talk about these issues and we talk about, okay, what are the underlying factors that are causing discomfort? Is there anything we can do about them? Can we fix them now? Can we fix them in the midterm? Can we fix them in the long term? And I do think that this is a way to go for private enterprises and private, entrepreneurs like our driver partners, because at the end of the day, if we're not speaking to each other and we're not understanding the different viewpoints that are on the table, we can't resolve. And then it becomes a very difficult environment for anybody to operate. So short version of this long story is protests in the private space are not very effective. What they do is they curtail business and they prevent us from actually solving the issues. Oh, a lot has changed. And, that's the beauty of operations, which is, a core part of what we do every day at Bolt. We are on a mission to make sure that every trip is as smooth, efficient, enjoyable, and safe as possible. And so we've put several measures in place to make sure that safety and security is maintained before, during, and after the trip. And, just to give you a highlight, some of the newer things that maybe are not in public domain yet, we have something like trip anomaly, where, for example, if you are supposed, when you book the trip, to be heading east, and the trip ends up going west, something is triggered in the back end. We have, for our driver partners, for example, a mapping of potentially unsafe areas, because we know sometimes that also drivers can be the unfortunate victims of, security risks. And so we're being proactive in making sure that as much as we can, we reduce any potential for these safety incidences to occur on our platform. And it's something that we're passionate about and we'll keep pursuing, because like we like to say internally, one case is too many. And you can imagine, we do thousands and thousands of trips every day. So it's something that we have a full-on dedicated team working on all the time. One of the things that's very dear to us as Bolt, not just in this market but globally, is sustainability. And electrification is a big part of that program. And coming closer to home, one of the things that we've done that we're very happy about and looking to scale is we have introduced an electric motor vehicle fleet. And we did a pilot this year. It's doing very well. The numbers are going up. And so we are going to scale it next year and the years to come, because we do see that the EV industry in this country, Kenya, while nascent, is growing. And there's a lot of interest in the space, and there's a lot of investments coming into the space. And we do think that, for example, if I just, again, bring it back into ride-hailing, if you look at an ICE bicycle, a no internal combustion engine motorbike, versus an electric bicycle, the running costs of this electric bicycle is actually lower than the ICE bicycle. And this electric bicycle is better for the environment. So it's actually a win-win if ultimately at the end of the day our border partners, for example, have electric vehicles. It's good for them, it's cheaper to run, it's good for the environment. So it's a win-win. And we're always looking for win-wins. And so we're really focused to grow in that direction. We are, like I like to say, we don't necessarily build our business by looking at others. We like to outdo ourselves. And so even when, you look at things that's, such as safety, the value propositions that we put in the market, it's always, where are we now? And how can we be better tomorrow? And so that's why I asked you, what do you mean by rating? Because we internally look at, what are we doing well? Can we make it better? What are the things that maybe are not working so great? Can we fix them and make them great? So that's our philosophy, yes.